Here's a toilet paper roll. We're going to take a look at the dimensions of the card that was used to make this roll. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut it. And when I open this up, I get a rectangle. That's no surprise. But what I'm interested in is the dimensions of this rectangle. So it's pretty clear that this dimension here is our length. What is this dimension from here to here? So if I measure this, I'm going to get about 13.4 centimeters. But what about this roll is 13.4 centimeters? It's not the diameter, is it? Diameter is far less than that. That's actually the circumference of this circle. So if I were to take that number and divide it by pi, I would get the diameter. So we can kind of roughly check that. And it looks about fairly reasonable. And that's because the circumference of a circle is pi times diameter. Here's an example of a pattern. This pattern can be cut out of fabric and then sewn into a hat. So you can see that these rounded edges, when you sew them together, creates this rounded sort of top, and it has a little bit of a rim you can fold up, and this makes a hat. So this is an example of how you can use a pattern. So I've got a box of toothpaste here. And like a lot of products that we buy from the supermarket, it comes in a box that's made out of this card material. So how did the designer of this box come up with this, and how did they create this box? Well, inside the box you've got a tube of toothpaste with certain dimensions, and what you could do is you could come up with a prototype box by measuring the dimensions and making a design on the box, and you might come up with something that looks like this that can be folded into a box. We call this a net. And once you had this net figured out and you could see that the toothpaste fits nicely in the box, what you could do is you could take this net and you could add tabs to it. So this has tabs, and the tabs are where you put the glue to hold the box together. So you could take your net, add tabs to it, and that would be a process for designing a product package. So let's say I have this room and I want to redo the flooring. So in this case, maybe I want to put tiles on the floor, and I want to plan out exactly where all the tiles are going to go. I'm going to need a scale drawing to do that accurately. So what I have here is just a very quick sketch of my room. I just took a measuring tape and I did some measurements and I made a quick sketch on a piece of paper, very rough. And now I want to transfer it to a neat scale drawing on this graph paper. This graph paper has a grid that are 1 centimeter from line to line. And so if I look at my my diagram, I have 450 centimeters in this direction. And I want to figure out what scale to use so that it fits on this piece of paper. So this piece of paper is not quite 30 centimeters. It's a little bit under 28. And the width is a little bit over 20. So let's say we wanted to make it 1/10 of the scale. So if we took 1/10 of this number, we would get 45. 45 is still going to be too big for this piece of paper because it's not even 30 centimeters. So maybe what I'll do is a 1:20 scale. So I'll take this number and I'll divide it by 20, and that will be the dimension I use on my scale drawing. So 450 divided by 20 gives me 22.5. And I have to check the other dimension to make sure that that will fit in this direction on my paper. So we said this was about a little bit under 20 centimeters. How far is it from here to here? The diagram doesn't have it labeled, but I'm going to label it as 100 plus 400, so that's 500 centimeters. So if I take the 500 and I divide that by 20, I get 25. So 25 is actually too big to fit on this piece of paper this way. So I have to go a little bit further. So 1:10 didn't work, 1:20 didn't work. I'm trying to pick very round numbers. 1:30 would be a little bit awkward. 1:40 would probably make more sense. So let's try 40. So if we took the 500 and you divided that by 40, you'd get 12.5 centimeters, and that'll fit nicely on the page. Okay, so we're going to take all our numbers and divide by 40. So the first one is 12.5. So I'm going to measure this side of the room. So we've got that side of the room. And then to do this wall, we're going to take 450, divide that by 40. So we've got 11.25 centimeters. So 2.5 millimeters on top of the 11 centimeter mark. Puts us right here. Let's try that again. And then we're going to do this wall. So 400 divided by 40, that's just 10. Got this wall here, 320 divided by 40 gives us 8. And at this point, it's pretty obvious where the lines have to go because they're all right angles. Just connect it up. So there's a scale drawing. At this point, we're going to want to label it. So that's 450 centimeters, 500 centimeters, we can put our door in there. The door wasn't really measured, it's just to show where the opening is. And that is our scale drawing.